going to talk about what it means to be a commercial pilot, flying for such companies as Delta, Southwest, United, American, Frontier, or Spirit, to name a few. As a commercial pilot, you have a very predictable schedule. It's either 3 days on, 4 days off, or 4 days on and 3 days off. You also have the assistance of a dispatcher whose responsibility is to gather all relevant information associated with that flight, to include the weather, the amount of fuel you will need, file your flight plan, complete your weight and balance, then take all this information, compile it in a single package, and have it ready for the pilot when he or she shows up at the gate. Once the pilot do arrive at the gate, normally within 1 hour of the departure time, he or she only needs to print out that paperwork, review it, and sign off on it. Commercial pilots rarely have to directly interact with the passengers. The pilot may say hi or good evening or good day or exchange a few pleasant words with the passengers. Their other responsibility is to do what's called a pre-flight safety briefing with the flight attendants, letting them know what their responsibilities will be should something go wrong. Many pilots love this type of flying because they know exactly how long they will be gone, they know what they were doing while they are gone, and they know where they will end their flight every evening. I did this type of flying for 3 months and I didn't like it. I didn't like the predictable nature of it. You never got to truly enjoy the places you visited. What I experienced was I saw airports day after day, day after day, but I was never given enough time off to actually go outside of my hotel room and visit many of the places that I flew to. The second thing I did not like about commercial aviation is you don't have that close interaction with your passengers. You literally fly in a plane full of people who you will never know, who you will never meet, though you assure yourself that wherever they're going, you are taking them there to be involved in some important family event. This disconnect, this lack of a personal interaction always bothered me. Third, unlike most sector where you can use your job experience to negotiate a higher wages for your next job, in aviation you cannot do that. Every company, including Southwest, American, Delta, United, Frontier, Spirit, has a first year pay, a second year pay, and a third year pay. And these pay aids dependent on the type of aircraft they will hire you to fly. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter if you took the space shuttle from Earth to Mars and back. If Southwest first year pilot salary is $50,000, you are being paid $50,000. Yes, these companies do have unions and they do have collective bargaining power. But as an individual pilot, you cannot use your previous experience to ask for a higher raise. Fourth, these companies operate on something that's called seniority, which means your performance, the way you do your job, is less important. What's important is when you join the company. For example, someone who have been working for, say, American for 10 or 12 years, they are considered a very senior person. As such, he or she can bid monthly. That is to say, they can choose whatever trip they want to do. And usually they bid for the good trips. I mean, why not? They put the time in, they put the work in, and they have been there for longer. Some pilots think that is fair. I think it is unfair because one's performance doesn't really give you an edge over anyone else. You can have this senior pilot who is not really that good at performing his or her job, but because they got there 5 or 10 years in front of you, he or she has a better chance of getting a more favorable schedule. I also don't like it because of its predictable nature. I got into aviation to go to places, to visit places, and to personally meet and interact with the people who I fly. As I've stated, commercial pilots don't have this ability to do so. And I think that is unfortunate because it's really cool to meet the people you are flying and get to know where they're going and why they're going where they're going. And it gives you a chance to feel pretty good about your job, to know that you're there making a difference in someone else's lives. Most pilots like this form of flying because they are assured about their schedule. They know what they will be doing. They know when they're going home. They know how much they will be paid. They know when they can spend time with their family and when they will be on the road. And that is great. If you like to know that type of stuff and you like the predictability of being a commercial pilot, then all that stuff is good. It just wasn't for me. The other dark side of being a commercial pilot is being laid off, or in aviation we call it furlough. It's where a company, due to an economic downturn, will say, okay, we don't need to be flying 300 planes, we only need 200. Let's park the rest of it, but the pilots, we also don't need them. Instead of firing them, because the union wouldn't allow the company to fire them, let's furlough them with an undetermined callback date. The challenge with this is, if you get furloughed, you have no idea when the company will recall you. It could be 6 months or it could be 6 years. In the meantime, you need to earn money. As a pilot, you will apply to other companies. The first thing the companies ask you that you're applying to is, do you have a recall date? Have you been furloughed from an airline? The reason they're asking us that is to find out if it's worth their time and their money to spend to train us to fly their plane, only to have us leave within 30 days or 60 days because we have been recalled to our primary job. If a pilot do decide, due to his or her financial position, that they need to take this job so as to pay their bills, there is a possibility that they may have to give up their seniority position in the airline that furlough them. This means they will have to go through the hiring process again if they wish to go back to that airline, if they were to give up their seniority. And that's awful. The pay is, aviation in general, the health of it it's dependent on the state of the economy. If the economy is doing good, aviation does great. If the economy is doing bad, aviation does terrible. As a commercial pilot, you have a mandatory retirement age of 65. Most pilots are still capable of functioning properly beyond 65. In fact, I fly with some pilots who are over 70 years old and they do fine. The issue with that is after you retire, you still need to earn income. So even though it is theoretically possible as a airline pilot to make a ton of money, your age to make that money is very limited because by the time you get your real high paying job, you're probably about 30 years old. That means you have 35 years to make a ton of money so you can retire. And that sounds like it's a lot of time, but it really isn't because of the other financial commitments you may have. Thus, I don't really think that salaries as a commercial pilot is stable. I think it's just as competitive and just as likely to lose that money should the economy go south. And speaking of money, aviation, you can find yourself making $100,000 on Friday, and by Monday you're making $40,000 because on Friday the company you were working for went into bankruptcy or completely failed and you no longer have a job. And the only new job you can find, first year salary, is $40,000. So it is very important as a pilot, whether it's a commercial pilot or a business jet pilot, to properly manage your finances, to live your life on the assumption that you are making significantly less than what you're actually making. Compare this to the type of flying I do. I do private jet or business aviation or corporate aviation. It's the complete opposite. I'm responsible for my passengers' baggage. I offload it and I load it. I am responsible for meeting and greeting my passengers. There is that intimate thing that I just mentioned. I am responsible for calculating how much fuel I will need. I am responsible for looking at all security information relevant to my destination and my departure airport. I am responsible for looking at the weather and making the determination whether or not this flight is safe. Some large corporate flight department or business jet flight department do have dispatchers. However, the responsibility of such individuals are limited to only providing the customers and all relevant security information to the flight crew. But in my lines of work, it is all me. It is also not predictable. I know where I'm starting from, but I don't know where I will end. For example, I may start in Teterboro. That's all I know. At the end of the day, I could end up in Costa Rica, or I can end up in Aspen, or I can end up in Glasgow. I don't know. And I love that. I also get to actually see the places that I fly to. Today I'm in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and I'm here for 5 days. I will get to see Pinehurst. I've never been here before. I've never met the people here before. I get to be here for 5 days and actually explore the place. Thus, when I am asked, have you ever been to Pinehurst? I said yes. And they say, well, did you go and see the Pinehurst PGA golf course? Absolutely, because I had 5 days to do that. That's the joy about doing the type of flying that I do. And those are the differences between a commercial pilot who flies for the airline and a private pilot, such as myself, who either flies someone who owns a plane, a corporate flight department such as Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, or other big Fortune 500 companies, or a company such as NetJets, FlexJets, TMC Jets, Wheels Up. All those guys are also private companies who fly the 1%. I hope this video is informative and helpful. That's it for this one. Until next time, be good.